We got a major Habs report as the Montreal Canadiens have reportedly been linked to Claude Giroux as Bruce Garrioch, one of the Senators' top reporters, has said Montreal is among the teams interested in bringing in the veteran forward who led the NHL in faceoff percentage this past year. We have to dive into this Claude Giroux report, but that's not all. We have a huge report coming out of Dallas as Jeff Marek suggested that Jason Robertson could be on the move, and on Donnie and Dolly's show, a Canucks show, they have heard Robertson's name is out there, and the big 6'3", 40-goal scorer maybe on the market, and Kent Hughes could take advantage. We got that, plus Habs offseason contract management, plus a note on Laval and their goalies. We got a lot of big stuff coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. Welcome into the Monday live stream, Jesse. Starting off hot with the $20 from Ethan Mods. Ethan, thank you so much. Just simply saying, yo, Ethan, welcome and thank you so much for the $20. So generous, Jesse. What a hot start to the stream. What a hot start to the day. Our first big trade report in a hot minute here.
Well, absolutely. And if you don't know Ethan, he's a fantastic human being right here. Thank you so much for that generosity starting off the show. I mean, and this is what it's all about, right? Having fun, getting to chat it up with the fans, opportunity, because we like asking each other questions. Josh, we do that all the time on the show, right? So here's the opportunity. Be able to do that with the fans, right? Be able to hear from them, right? We're going to ask you guys some questions. Feel free to bring some to the table as well. Of course, we love chatting up with you. It might be summer, over in Canada right now, but we love our Hockey 365.
Oh, all the time, all day, every day. Hottest time of year is draftless free agency, and that's what this is all about today. Now, you're going to want to stick around for Claude Giroux, Jason Robertson, all that stuff, because, look, these reports, they're pretty big, but we're going to get to them a little bit later. But first, I want to dive into some Laval stuff, Jesse. Look, I mean, the fans have not been super thrilled with it. A lot of the fans even here in the chat. We got WL, we got Charles, we got Ethan, we got Frank, we got Drum Dude. Hello to everyone. But the Laval Rocket, look, they have not been super impressive in these conference finals, Jesse. Down 3-0 to the Charlotte Checkers. None of the games have been that close. There's been a lot of questions, some about Logan Mailloux, some about different things. But the biggest one to me right now is the goaltending. Now, Jacob Fowler came in and he stole that starter's net for a little bit, but Cayden Primeau started to get more of the run as we got further in the playoffs, which makes sense. Cayden Primeau was one of the best goalies in the AHL in terms of pretty much every statistical metric. But in the playoffs, Jesse, he has really not been shining. 3.27 GAA, 878 save percentage. Jacob Fowler here with a 906 save percentage, 2.38 GAA in 7 games. Now, there's been a game where Fowler's been pulled. There's been a game where Primeau's been pulled. What do you make of this situation with Laval right now? I mean, I know they got to lock in a little bit better, play a little bit better, but this goalie situation is getting very, very interesting, to say the least.
On top of an already complicated situation, relationship, however you want to put it right now, you got to feel bad for Primeau. I think we need to start there, right? Like having that amazing, basically legendary season after getting demoted to the AHL, kind of answering the call like a champ all the way. Isn't this kind of like emblematic to his career too, where like he builds up and then looks like he's going to have his moment and then something is quite happens, right? Like I just feel bad for Primeau right now. That Fowler though, he's going to get his. It's inevitable. He's been going for that net. That's why I still have faith in the Montreal Canadiens is, this next game, in the Laval Rocket, like I definitely feel like they can get this next game here with Jacob Fowler in net. We know that this series has been a little bit tilted, right? When you see those lopsided wins, like it might be in the back of your mind, like, can they really come back from this? I think it's taking it one game at a time. You know what? And I really believe in Fowler's this game-breaking ability. Get them that first game and then just kind of really build from there going forward. Again, they've like the Laval Rocket had such an amazing season in the AHL for a reason. It's really not a fluke, and I think it's just a team that really needs to remember that right now. A lot of young guys still in that locker room. This is a pivotal time for them, but this series isn't over. I got faith in Fowler, coming up big when he gets his next opportunity very soon.
I absolutely agree. And look, if you see Fowler going out next game, which I assume is going to happen, I don't know if that's been confirmed. I don't think it has. Honestly, all you need is him to steal that one game. This Laval Rocket team, Jesse, it's a team that was the #1 seed in the entire AHL for a good reason, because they're one of the younger teams in the AHL, first of all. A lot of their top producers, while yes, at the top end, Barré-Boulet, Laurent Dauphin, those guys are veterans. They have a lot of contribution from 21, 22-year-olds up and down the lineup. And hey, with this playoffs, you just add more youth with a guy like Oliver Kapanen, a guy like Jacob Fowler, right? And Fowler, I don't know, Jesse, I think that if he comes in and steals a game right now, to me, this next game, the most important game of Jacob Fowler's professional career, And I don't think it's even particularly close. Yes, obviously he came in and performed so well right away versus Cayden Primeau, but like this is the kind of time where like you look at a young prospect, regardless if it's a forward or whatever, and if you can take over a game in this opportunity, I know you still, even if you win, it'll be 3-1 in the series. It might not change what's going to happen. Look, teams down 3-0, they can win. Laval can. It's rare. We got to accept that. But to be able to seize this opportunity, if he goes out there and has a great game, Jesse, I know we don't want to make management decisions based off just one performance, but in my mind here, if you're Jacob Fowler, you're seeing this as a chance to like almost solidify yourself as like bona fide, absolutely above Cayden Primeau if he wasn't there already. I know it's just one game, but like I can't help but feel that based on both of their performances.
Yeah, and to really be the hero, and we need to remember, like, the big vision for Jacob Fowler in this is making waves in Montreal so that Kent Hughes sees, because he knows that they're paying attention, and obviously the outcome and how he performs in this really matters a lot. And so he gets the chances to be like the full-on hero here. Is that a tough hill to climb? Absolutely. To be fair, would I want anybody else but Jacob Fowler in net for the Laval Rocket with that task on hand? I wouldn't want anybody else. Like, I feel like Jacob Fowler, like, he's up to it. He has this crazy opportunity right now. And obviously, we know it's a team game as well. But, like, you could have made the argument that, like, he maybe should have got the net earlier. Pascal Vincent, he's been very diplomatic on how he's doled out who gets the crease and not. He didn't allow, like, one lopsided loss from Primeau. Like, he allowed two where, like, the goal save percentage wasn't too pretty there. So it's like, if Fowler wins now, it's like he can say to Primeau, like, I really gave you that chance. And from there, like, we're just riding Fowler going out. So absolutely does have precedent, not just for the series, but next year for who's getting that crease when it matters the most, right? Like, that's the biggest litmus test. Of course it matters, but to that ultimate goal of getting to the Montreal Canadiens, if he's able to kind of really make some noise, get the Laval Rocket back in the series, you know that's going to count to Kent Hughes.
Oh, for sure. And look, I mean, even watching Fowler, you're like, yeah, he still needs a bit of pro seasoning, like every single young goalie does. Like, he was pulled from a game, although I wouldn't say the goals were his fault. And again, that's not to say that Primeau has been, like, let in a bunch of softies. Some of them, yeah, but, like, you know, the team's defense has not been good. It hasn't helped him. I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, like right now, it's honestly crazy we're talking about the fact that Fowler's looked so good in his pro debut, this little stint right now, that we could be talking about him on the Montreal Canadiens very, very soon, and it's rare for a young goalie. But we got Ethan coming in with another super chat, $10. Ethan, once again, thank you so much for all your generosity. It's unbelievable. He said, it's really weird that Laval has played Primeau the last 3 games, even though they've lost the last 3. They need a change of confidence for the team. Yeah, you know, I tend to agree as well, Jesse. Look, I don't want to call out Pascal Vincent's decisions because, look, he was one of the best coaches in the league. He's done great things for our development right now. So honestly, I really have not much but positive things to say about Vincent, but his decision on the goaltending has been a bit strange. Like, he wasn't shy to pull Fowler when Fowler let in a few goals in the game. I was at, because of course, but like, to have Primeau then start a few games in a row, I get going with the veteran. I don't know, like, this felt like for the first few rounds, all right, we're just going to go back and forth. That was just their game plan. But then when you get to the most important games, you go back to the veteran. And I feel like that can be a bit disruptive. Look, I'm not a coach as well, but I tend to agree that it is a little surprising, to say the least.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's a fair point. Like, great comment. Like, you would almost wonder there wasn't a change just a little bit sooner there, just given the critical nature of all this. Of course, we know that goalie pull is a very interesting topic right now, just in the NHL, and when you quite kind of make that happen. I think you definitely got to be very strategic there. But sometimes I think just kind of stopping that bleeding. But anyway, you know, the Laval Rocket are where they are right now, and they still have that opportunity again. Like, there's been always some good signs. Like, the score hasn't been always super emblematic of the play. I feel like, you know, with obviously it's going to start on that back end with Jacob Fowler, but, you know, one game at a time, you know, we'd love to see them get back in this series.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, that's it, Jesse. One game at a time. That's all it takes. That's all it takes to get to all your dreams. Take that first step. Hey, that's right. Can't wait to see what comes out next game. Hoping to see Jacob Fowler. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get into today, including Claude Giroux and even Jason Robertson. So make sure you guys stick around. But we got a lot of wonderful people here in the chat. We got this new thing in the chat here showing the community leaderboard. So you can see who's number 1, who's number 2. We got people. You can compete for the amount of people that are commenting here, which is really cool. Roderick Murray saying, have we given up on Kirby Dach? Not so much a topic of this video, Jesse, but I'm going to say no. Not at all, not even a little bit, based on what Jeff Gorton said. You got any quick comments on the Kirby Dach situation? That might be something we talk about as we start to head toward these trade rumors in the draft.
Well, that's a two-parter. On the part of him being a center, yes, I have given up on Kirby Dach. On a part of him being a part of this team, no, I haven't been a big proponent. Like, this guy can look so composed in the offensive zone with the puck on his stick. He's just a guy that can make the game slow down. Like, he's got some really high potential. Like, there's a reason why he was drafted so high. It's just been such a shame that we haven't been able to see everything come together. I even just like another thing about Kirby Dach's game, like him just dropping the gloves. Yep. A lot of people don't know, like, this guy can throw down. It's just these small things like that have just endeared me to Kirby Dach, where I'm like, this guy can score some beauty goals when he's on his game, but throw bombs with like the absolute best in the league, you know. And it's so his game, I think there's a little bit more than we kind of see, you know, beneath the surface. Even though he's a big guy, you don't really expect that from Kirby Dach. I think he's got more than we're not expecting. But again, trying him at center, I think doesn't work. Like, we don't want to keep trying to do the same things kind of again and again. But I think he'll need to work his way up. He'll get a chance in the bottom six, and we'll see how he does from there. Is he able to move himself up into what will be a very crowded top six for the Montreal Canadiens? That'll be difficult, but again, they're going to want that competition going forward. He's got to feel like he's got a little bit of value, so he's got one more year left on his deal next year. That'll be really interesting to see how that all plays out, and even up to the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see, because I think he'll still be an RFA at the end of it, right? So it's like he got a lot of time to figure things out, and honestly, like, again, 2 brutal injuries, like, the dude hasn't really been given much of a fair shot. But at the same time, like, when you have those injuries, it's a cutthroat league, and people come in, talent comes in, they go in ahead of you. You got to prove yourself better than them. I think there's a world where he still can, but I think that that world is starting to fade day by day. But I'm excited to see what he can do. That's a fantastic question. Thank you so much, everyone, for chatting. Ethan saying, I think that Kirby Dach will be on the third line as a winger to start the season. I think so too. I think that makes a lot of sense. But hey, guys, before we move on, and again, we got to get into Robertson and Giroux in a bit. Just a quick reminder, guys, we're like 50 subscribers away from 21,000. We got 170 you in here now. Hey, even a 30 you, hit that button down below. It's completely free. We're here literally every single day, all off season long. And I know you want to stay up to date on all the latest Habs news. And hey, if you do, this is the spot to be. But Jesse, before we get into Jason Robertson and Claude Giroux, because they're so interesting, I want to take a little bit of time here. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about not just the trades the Habs will make, but, you know, the way that we can structure our contracts. And there's 2 guys that come to light here. There's a lot of people talking about these things, different shows, different websites, and wanted to give our take on this stuff. And the first one is Lane Hutson. The second one is Carey Price, because those are the 2 biggest contract situations I think Montreal has this offseason. Now, Kent has said, look, there's no rush to extend Lane Hutson, but you know, there's no secret that we would like to see him sign sooner than later. Don't want to drag it out too long. We want him on an 8-year deal yesterday. Now, whether that'll happen, we're not sure. And there's also, again, Carey Price, who is going into the last year of this deal, but moving Carey Price this offseason will allow the Habs a lot more cap flexibility without having to dip into LTIR. Now, if you remember last year, we didn't even need to put him on LTIR at the start of the season, so we could accrue that cap space. It was good throughout the year. But if we want to make a splash, Jesse, we want to make some signings, especially with Slav's contracts coming on the book now this year. Moving this contract might be something. What are you thinking about the Habs contract management? Maybe starting with Lane Hutson. I mean, I know Ken said he's in no rush. I am actually, I don't know if this is a hot take. I think Lane Hutson is going to sign his extension within a week of the eligibility window. I know Caufield didn't do that. I know he doesn't have to do it this offseason at all, even. He can wait. I actually think that this is going to go down within the first week of the offseason, and I think it's going to be for over $8 million. I think he's going to immediately be the highest paid player in this core minus line A. I don't know if that's a hot take, but that's where I stand on Lane. I think he's proven that much.
I like your thoughts on them moving quickly on him. I might have him on the 9 million range, but this guy's a team guy. You got to feel like he's probably going to do something that is still kind of within that realm, which is still helping this team here. You got to feel like Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton are huge members, fans of the of the Lane Hutson club, right? Because like this guy just has so much to endear himself to the team. That's work both on and off the ice, and you definitely got to feel like that's gonna go up, the cost of that. I think it's still fair to say, like, in the equation, if you're Kent Hughes, you got to look at all the angles here. There is still a thing when you're giving that longer term contract. You have to have the conversation with Jeff Gorton, others, etc. We assume Is his size a concern in terms of like maybe him getting injured where we're worried about giving a longer term deal with that being the case?
Yeah.
Now, of course, we only have a sample size of this season. You know, we did see him get rocked for a couple times, but the large part, like this guy played every single game. And I think even though we just have that one season, I think Hughes, they're still going to feel confident giving him a long-term deal. They're going to need to talk about it just because of the size. But we can't forget, like with Lane Hutson, we always need to look at like that heart, that compete as being a part of the whole equation. Because without kind of looking at that, we're really not getting the full picture of this player at all. That's why I feel absolutely so confident. Just that work ethic, the way he's just such a consummate pro on and off the ice, taking care of himself the way that he does is. I really do have faith in kind of doing that, even though it is a little bit riskier now because we've given out a couple of those long-term deals, right? And you kind of need to be careful going forward, very selective going forward. Lane Hutson is absolutely one of those guys. If he goes out and bests his season from last year, which is probably some good money on that, he'll do that again. Of course, that contract just in the same position next year is going to do nothing but go up. I think Hughes and having that longer overall vision, he's going to want to lock that in. And what's great there is that it allows him to kind of have a lot of projectables in terms of like, he knows what he's got locked, what he has to play with, so he can really be calculated in his moves going forward. I feel like they're going to want to make that long-term commitment there, going forward very soon as well.
Yeah, and look, I think I said 8 years, 8 million. I think I meant 8 or more million. I sort of just meant that he will be the highest paid player. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the 9 million range is definitely closer to what he'll actually get, but that's something I'm really excited to see, and I don't know. I got this good feeling about everyone with the Habs. Now, I know player agents, they want to do one thing and they want to get the most for their player because that means they get a bigger cut. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic we can sneak him in at sub 9. And if we can get Lane Hutson at sub 9, again, this rookie season with a team that struggled offensively for a big chunk, we were also one of the best offensive teams for certain stretches, like a month or two there in the new year. But imagine Lane Hutson on this team with a full season of Ivan Demidov, with our 2C of the future, with whoever else we want to bring in, with Slaf developing, Suzuki even getting better, Suzuki getting some Selke votes, by the way. Shout out to the voters that voted for Nick Suzuki. Higher than Austin Matthews, lower than Mitch Marner. Fair enough, but hey, we love our boy. But yeah, Lane Hutson, Jesse, that's going to be amazing because, look, now luckily Hutson, it doesn't matter too much for this offseason with his contract, right? It's more so next year and the implications after that. You still have to look into it. But directly this offseason, I did want to touch on Carey Price a bit because it's been something we haven't really mentioned on the show because it's just one of those things that it kind of sucks to talk about, but we did see Carey Price do interviews recently. Hey, he said he could still play, probably not a full season. He could probably play an NHL game. I don't expect to see any kind of send-off for him. Look, his last game in the NHL, we scored 10 goals for him against the Panthers. Good enough for me. Jesse, this $10.5 million contract, simple question, and I asked this to the chat as well, all you wonderful people in chat. Are we trading this contract? Look, we did it with Shea Weber. I mean, not as much of a Habs legend, I guess, but he was the captain. He brought us to the Stanley Cup Finals being the captain. And he really was a legendary player in a lot of ways. Price is the heart and soul of the Habs since 2000, really. I mean, maybe Gallagher too, but he's obviously such an icon. I don't know. It makes a lot of sense, and I think Price would be fine with it. In this Weber type thing, Jesse, in the moment where it's like, oh, Weber's contract is gone, oh, that sucks. You forget about it pretty quickly, and then it's just because he's not playing for you. I actually do think Carey Price's contract gets moved this offseason. There's not too much to discuss on this front, but it actually does make a pretty big difference for what Kent Hughes plans to do in terms of free agency and trades.
It does feel like it is going to finally be this summer where this happens. And this, again, was all dependent on the team as well. And again, how the team would show Kent Hughes when they're ready and when they would kind of need to do these moves, which is a tough kind of piece of housekeeping. But because we love Carey Price, very much. And this hurts, even if it's just symbolic in nature, it still hurts all the same. But that being said, as this team is looking to get more competitive, that cap space that they can really accrue over the season just starts to take on a whole other meaning going forward here. So it is time for the team to shift gears. And I feel like we are going to see that, Josh, this summer here coming up, which of course is difficult, but that's not going to change the amazing love that, this city and this fan base is always going to have for Mr. Carey Price.
I'm sure he'll stick around the org, just like Weber did when he was on different teams. He came around, he spoke to the guys, and I see some people in chat saying, look, not worth it to trade. Contracts LTI players aren't worth much. It's not about what we get back for the contract. That's not the point of it. The point is more if we want to make signings, like, we need to put Carey Price on LTIR. And that's the problem. When you have a player on LTIR to get below the cap, then you are not allowed to accrue cap space throughout the season. Like, if you come into the season below the salary cap, that amount that you have at the start of the season gets more and more and more and more valuable. You're able to fit in bigger contracts come trade deadline if you want to go get a big piece, right? And having Carey Price's contract on the books doesn't allow you to do any of that, right? So that's kind of the point of it, where it actually does make a big difference for Montreal financially for this season. So that's why I think it will happen. It's not about the return. We might get a seventh, a conditional seventh, maybe future considerations, but that enough opens up a lot for Montreal going forward. So something to think about as well. I know it's complicated cap stuff, but you just don't be surprised if you see it, and just know it's not for the return that we get. But yeah, it's going to be a sad day when it happens. But hey, you know what? Let's get back on the positive side here. We got to get to Ethan's super chat again. Ethan, thank you once again for the $5. That first power play, if it stays intact for years to come, just imagine the chemistry the boys will develop together. And that's one thing I'm excited about, Jesse. Now, there's some interesting talk right now about that first PP. And, the guys we're talking about in a minute might affect that, might not. But there's the talk of, does Yvonne stay on that top PP or does Laine stay there? And I think in my head, like, it's just that unit we ran in the playoffs when Laine was out, right? Like, it's Slav, Suzuki, Caufield, Hutson, and Yvonne Demidov. That's what it's going to be. But I see a lot of people saying, look, if you have Laine, you might as well keep him on that first power play. We can't forget how impactful he was for certain stretches of this season, bringing us to that another level on our power play, helping us make the playoffs with his goal scoring. I tend to agree. I think our second power play this year is going to finally be a power play that's worth watching, as opposed to the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, they had their moments this year, but not great. Again, look, with a guy like Dach down there, hopefully fully healthy, Alex Newhook, who can create opportunity, and even a guy like Matheson or whoever on that second power play can do something. Second power play, Jesse, I mean, honestly, my vote is for these 5 guys to just go out there. Youngest power play one in the league. I have to imagine, haven't proven that, but I doubt there's a younger one that's actually good, except for maybe, like, I don't know, San Jose or something. I think they have Toffoli anyway. But, like, I don't know. I think this 5, Jesse, I don't know if it's a hot take, but this could be a top 5 power play one unit in the league as soon as, like, a year or two from now. I'm that confident in the chemistry these guys have already shown together.
I wouldn't be surprised to see that even in training camp, and seeing Laine maybe getting on that PP2. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see how that all kind of pans out. And for sure, Patrik Laine does deserve a lot of respect. Mm-hmm. You feel like you definitely want to play him to his strengths there on the power play. I just feel like any way that you shake it, like, we're definitely the kind of the end effect of all of that is we're going to have 2 units that are going to be very capable of putting the puck in the back of the net. So going to be very interesting. But you got to feel like Yvonne Demidov, he's got that inside track for right now to get on that top power play.
I mean, it's got to be him, right? Like, it's got to be him. I mean, Ethan, thank you again for that super chat. It just feels right. Like, that chemistry, Jesse, like, we were talking about it. Now, I know, like, when you have a bigger sample, like, you see teams start to plan against you, right? And when you insert a new, highly skilled, super unpredictable player like Yvonne Demidov in the middle of a playoff series to a team that's just never seen him, like, in the NHL, that can make your unit look a little better than it might look after a 30-40 game sample where teams have time to scout you. But at the same time, that unpredictability is also what's not going to allow them to scout them very well. Him and Lane Hutson are insanely unpredictable, and they're bringing that element to a Habs power play that, let's be honest, for the last 3, 4, 5 years has been very predictable, whether it's Cole Caufield or Patrik Laine. You have one guy shading over there. Whoops, power play's broken. I don't know what to do. Like, that's been the case. So I love the idea that these guys are going to bring that unpredictability. It's awesome. But want to get back to the chat just really quick. We got a lot of people chatting in here. We got number 1s, number 2s, number 3s here. Oh, a lot of great stuff in here. Ethan saying Horvat's probably the best bet other than Crosby. See a lot of people saying Crosby be insane, too much of a mortgage depending on the cost. Hey, that's why we're talking about Claude Giroux in a minute, but just hold on that. But Giroux isn't leaving Ottawa. He will retire a census, Brad. That's possible, but hey, the fact is Montreal is interested in him. But before we get to him, Jesse, I want to ask the people for a like on the stream. We got 225 people in here on this wonderful Monday. Look, it's June, it's summer. I know you guys love to be outside, but I'm so glad you're here with us, sharing our love for the Montreal Canadiens, all the latest news. So if you wouldn't mind just hitting the like button. Like, look, we love to hit 100 likes on the stream. I know we still need 65 of you to hit that with 225 people, but hey, it's one click and it seriously means the world to us, helps us a ton. And hey, if you're enjoying it, I hope you like clicking it too. But thank you so much for being here once again. Jesse, we got some interesting reports. So you heard this Jason Robertson stuff, eh?
Yeah.
It's something. Let's take a look. So Jeff Merrick, first off, brought this idea up just yesterday, I think, in an article. He said, could the Stars move someone like Jason Robertson, who has one more year on his deal at an incredible $7.75 million value, to try to recoup draft capital and free up cap space to once again go big game hunting? Now, of course, Dallas, they went and signed Mikko Rantanen. They extended Wyatt Johnston, who, Jesse, I wouldn't mind bringing his name up at some point again. I know you mentioned him as one of your sleeper targets out of Dallas. Look, they're looking to move someone. You never know. That might be a nice little take from you from that other video, but I digress. For now, there have been reports that Jason Robertson has been made available, not just from Jeff Merrick speculating that he could be made available. We have a tweet here, NHL Rumor Report. This comes from the Donnie and Dolly show, which is a Canucks show, if you're not aware. Quite a good one if you like any Canucks content. But Rick Dollawall, who is an insider, said Stars forward Jason Robertson's name is out there in trade discussions. Jason Robertson, 1 year removed from a 40-goal season, and even after having a pretty rough start to this one, he still played a full 82 games with 35 goals and 80 points, Jesse. Like, he's, to me, a 90-plus point player, a 35 to 40 goal scorer, 6'3", 25 years old. Not a center. Again, I feel like all these names that are available are not centers because teams don't like to give up on their young star centers, which is fair enough. But if this guy's available, we've been talking about other wingers like a JJ Peterka out of Buffalo, whatever. You gotta at least kick the tires if you're Kent Hughes. I know it does come with a risk considering his, his contract here, 7.75, just for the 1 year. He's an RFA after this year, so you have to imagine he's going to command a lot of money. But again, the fact that a guy like this, big guy, plays fairly physical, can be a 40-goal scorer is available. Do you think Kent's going out and kicking the tires on this? I mean, again, it's not like that 2C we're looking for, but any 25-year-old with this kind of resume is very, very interesting.
Very interesting, right? But that's where the risk and reward of Patrik Laine and bringing him onto the team, where that comes into this. We're really, again, like, we made the playoffs because of having a Patrik Laine on our team last year, being a big part of that. But at the same time, it's Patrik Laine that's probably going to stop us from doing this type of move while we still have his contract on the books. We know that top line is set, but it's really kind of that second line. We know we have Demidov there, have that 2C. So for right now, that's line A of what would otherwise kind of be somebody like a Robertson being a star type of winger in this league. But you have to feel like the Stars, again, we've talked about it before, like they have to make a move one way or another. They added Rantanen onto the team, and with that comes a huge cap hit. So there's going to be some casualties in the form of a great player. Whether it's a Robertson, I mean, if you're Kent Hughes, even with the Laine situation, I say that just as a caveat, you still need to pay attention because, like, this guy is just like a phenomenal, primarily goal scorer. Like, and I like that he can set it up, but like, I like the Habs bringing in somebody who's just more of, just that straight up finisher. I think it's something that we could definitely use a lot more of on this team. So, I'd be very interesting though, that being said, like if Wyatt Johnston, if ever that starts to become like a dream situation. And again, with Kent Hughes, if kind of it's that there's kind of strapped for cash at this point in time, you definitely have to be paying attention to some of those young stars. And for you, and no pun intended, but you're definitely reaching for the star as best as you can with Wyatt Johnston there, if at all possible.
Yeah, I mean, again though, but isn't he just the ideal guy? I know we're talking a lot about Mason McTavish. Yeah. There's been more and more talk about him recently as well. Not so much on Anaheim's camp, but actually even Jeff Merrick mentioned the Ducks could be a suitor for Jason Robertson, including like some other young teams with cap space. Now, again, I think the problem here, if you're Montreal, like as much as I'd love to grab at Jason Robertson, it's never going to be free. And a guy with his resume, they're probably starting the conversation with a guy like Juraj Slafkovsky, right? And if he's ever available, you're trading Slav at is 21 years old for Jason Robertson, 25, who has that 40-goal production, who's also 6'3". Is that something we're willing to do? I don't think that's something they'd be willing to do at all if I'm Montreal, because again, Jason Robertson, after this year, I think he's going to be demanding an 8-year contract, probably north of $11 to $12 million, right? In Dallas, he's not going to get more than Rantanen, but, if he goes to another team, would not shock me if this dude was an $11+ million player, which is something that, again, do you really want to risk that if you're Montreal, whereas Slav could turn into something amazing for his, 5 or $7.7 million deal? It's interesting. I'm curious, and the chat here is actually kind of seems like a little split. Like, he's producing. Would be weird if they move Robertson. I agree. Dallas will not move Robo, but again, there's going to have to be some casualties. Like, you got to think they want to listen depending on who's available this offseason. But Ethan's saying, if I'm Hughes, I'm trying everything I can to get Robertson. Robertson, Demidov, all he needs a 2C. The problem is, again, who do you give up to get Robertson, right? Like, again, Merrick did kind of say, like, listen, if you're Dallas, you might want to recoup some draft capital in return, right? And both of Montreal's first-round picks plus some high-level prospects could maybe do it. But, I don't know. If I'm Dallas, I'm maybe looking for a guy like Slav. So it's going to be very, very interesting. We got another one here. If Robertson really is up for trade, at what price? Yeah, that's the big thing. So I don't know, Jesse. I mean, if you're Dallas, like maybe just a quick thought here. Like if Montreal's 2 first-round picks, another maybe 1 future first, so you go 3 first-round picks, and then you say like maybe no one on the actual roster, maybe someone like a Reinbacher thrown in there too. I feel like that's what we're talking for Robertson. I think that's probably where this falls apart, where it's like you do mortgage the future for a guy who is 25 in his prime for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, who is already established, but like who you're going to have to pay $11+ million next year. I feel like at this point with what Montreal is building, I feel like it's just, there wouldn't be a price, unless Dallas is crazy, that Kent Hughes would think, yes, this is a slam dunk,
Well, Dallas definitely needs picks right now for sure because they've been in that win now mode. And so they're definitely missing out on that. But we have to definitely look at like there's only 1 year left on Robertson's deal. So that's going to come in the equation where we won't need to pay as high of a price for kind of a first round, and obviously probably a prospect as well. Be very interesting to see. This is a very good player. The cost could be very rich the same, but this is where Kent can kind of take advantage of these situations. Like Dallas made their choice with the players that they want to go through, and obviously you can't keep anybody, right? So that's going to be very interesting. With just a year left, with all the capital we have, there could be a little bit of wiggle room. That being said, Kent's all about his priorities. He knows what he needs to take care of first. If he already has a handshake deal agreement on his 2C, and we're just kind of waiting for again, we're not trying to get into illegalities, but it's saying if he does have something in place already, then maybe that kind of frees him up to look at a move like this. But at the same time, until that's done, we know what Kent Hughes is really going to be focused on.
Yeah, Matthew Darsh, do us a solid, buddy. Come on, man, do something for your team. Oh man, that'd be crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look again, and like someone points out in chat as well, like, you got to pay Yvonne pretty soon as well. Like after next year, he's eligible for an extension, right?
That's it.
Right? Yeah. Like you got to pay him what's I can only assume based on what he's done so far is going to be $10+ million. You're going to pay Lane Hutson probably around 9, and then you still have Slav, Suzuki, Caufield all rated under 8, which is good. And then you have Guhle, which is good value at 5.5. We'll see where the goalie situation goes. I don't know, but there's a lot of factors as well to consider. Adding a guy like Robertson, is he the guy you want to be paying $11+ million to? Is he a driver of that offense? I don't know, but hey, anyway, that's an interesting discussion. But we got to get into the actual big report here. We're finally here on Claude Giroux, and hey, if you've been liking this stream, hit the like button down below. We're 35 away from 100 likes on the stream. This really, really helps us out, and hey, thank you so much for supporting us. Claude Giroux, Jesse, this is a big one today. Now, this comes from Bruce Gariach, who's one of Ottawa's top inside reporters, top beat reporters, and let's just show what we got here. Let me make sure I bring it up. So this is from rds.ca. I got it in French and English, in the language that you prefer. I'll read it in English, but according to league officials, this is linked down below, by the way, if you want to go read the original in French. According to league officials interviewed by Gariach, who is the Sens beat reporter, the Montreal Canadiens are among the clubs interested in the veterans' services, referring to Claude Giroux. Now, Claude Giroux is a very interesting name, Jesse. Again, he brings a ton of experience. He's 37 years old, and he's coming off not that bad a season, 50 points in 81 games. Now, his goal scoring's been going down year over year. He is old at 37. You can tell the point production's starting to go down, but he's just 2 years removed from a 79-point season, we can't forget. And look, with the Habs offense looking pretty great, he could be a good option. The other biggest thing for me is the league leading 61.5% on the faceoff dot. This is insane to be a 50-point player, responsible defensively, and lead the league with that insane faceoff percentage while also taking almost 1,000 of them is insane to me, Jesse. And look, I know we talk a lot about Sidney Crosby. To me, Giroux is kind of like a Crosby light in a few ways. He's a fantastic playmaker who can still probably score you 15 goals if you put him in the right situation. One of the best faceoff takers in the league. And hey, the thing is, he's a free agent, so you don't have to trade anything for him. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk of him probably wanting to stay in Ottawa, but if I'm Montreal, I'm not surprised at all that Kent Hughes is doing his due diligence when it comes to signing a Claude Giroux contract.
For sure. And, the ball is definitely going to be in Ottawa's court here kind of going forward, getting a little bit earlier. And he's kind of planning he still wants to play, but planning that retirement. But you know what? Like if it comes to a situation where it does not working out in Ottawa, and Ken Giroux, and then Claude Giroux still wants to play a little bit more, like who are we to fault him? If he wants to still continue playing out his career. Again, like the production, a lot of it is there of what we're kind of looking for, even though you could probably benchmark that going down in the near future. But as where it stands right now, I mean, we still see Crosby performing at an amazing pace. Like maybe we shouldn't discount Claude, like Giroux's production as well, because I mean, there's a very good chance where he continues to be a good player for many years to come. He has a lot of things that we're looking for being amazing. Obviously on the dot, being that vet, that production's there. It's really just kind of the age, obviously, at this point in time. But there is that argument that you can make that that's almost the ideal thing. If like Michael Hage has looked phenomenal, he's looked really good, and you don't want to put all your eggs into one basket and kind of put all that pressure on a young player. But that being said, like I think there's a world where unless you're just getting like a home run guy that just can kind of grow like McTavish with his team, there's a lot of merit to having a vet, somebody like a Giroux possibly that can hold it down in the meantime until Hage is ready. That being said, like, is Giroux like the perfect ideal 2C for us? No, he's not. But there are lots of positive things, like this young Canadiens team getting possession of the puck a lot more, which we're going to get it from Giroux. Him, that amazing probably impression you'd have on Demidov, that's a huge other reason to get a vet for me that makes a lot of sense. There'd be a lot net positive in terms of he's still bringing to this team production, a little bit more of that, vet savviness, which could come in handy come playoff times if they get there again. So a lot to like in this player. Again, not the perfect fit, a lot to love.
Yeah, a lot to love. And again, like I think this kind of bridge to see can make a lot of sense because again, like we've said so many times, Kent is not just going to go out and rush a trade that he doesn't love, right, for the future of this team. And that might be there this summer, it might not. And if the ideal trade is not there for him, again, like you said, as you wait for a guy like Hage to develop a bit, or maybe you wait for someone else to hit free agency or someone else to hit the trade market, stuff changes so fast in the NHL. Even if you sign Giroux to a 1 year or even a 2 year deal, that gives you so much flexibility because that contract will likely be tradable, especially with retention. So it's just one of those things that he can provide you, like leadership to me. Like, I don't know, maybe it's crazy, but I value leadership very much when I'm looking at contracts. I can almost assign it a bit of a monetary value, right? Which is why, like, yeah, maybe the on-ice production of someone like a Brendan Gallagher is not $6.5 million. I don't think a lot of Habs fans are that upset with that cap hit because of the leadership he brings. To be fair, he had a 20-goal year this year, but I think it matters a lot. Sure. And that face-off percentage, Jesse, like, my gosh, like the Habs' best face-off taker this year was Dvorak at about 55%, and then it was Suzuki at like 51. You bring in a guy like Giroux, who is like the best in the league right away, that changes the outlook of your team. Like you put him out in overtime instead of Dvorak, he doesn't even have to skate right off the ice, like this kind of stuff. So the question though would be the cost for him, and I took this from Scotiastat, who is a fantastic follow on Twitter if you want to go follow them. They have all this stuff also open. You can just go check out the projected contracts for a lot of people. Now they have Claude Giroux based on comparables of like Patrick Kane, David Perron, Joe Pavelski, Zuccarello, stuff like that. And either a 1 year $4.4 million cap hit, which is the most likely, or also likely a 2 year $5.4 million deal. And look, that to me is not too bad. Again, I think Montreal would have to maybe move on from some of their salary if they really want to make that work perfectly. But then again, you got a guy like Dvorak coming off the books at 4.5, Jesse, like Claude Giroux at a 1 year 4.5 or even a 2 year $5 million per deal. To me, like, yeah, that could carry some risk into that second season. But again, just for the face-off percentage alone and the fact that he brings leadership, hey, we're seeing Jonathan Toews is getting calls about contracts for those reasons alone, even though he hasn't played in a few years. And I just feel like it's more like his monetary value is more than just his production on ice. And I think even if you don't need him after a year, you could trade him, like retain to some team or something like that. And I don't know, I feel like that's just a really reasonable price, like $4 to $5 million for this guy. Honestly, I'm on board with it. And I'm going to put the poll back up in the chat to see if they're on board with it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like, it seems like the Habs are interested, right? And they're only kind of checking in if they feel like there maybe is a possibility of him entering the market. It's going to be very interesting to see what Ottawa does going forward here. But, you have to feel like Giroux was a big reason of getting the Sens as well to the playoffs this year. And again, that's just another example of, what that leadership, and again, some pretty solid production just throughout his career. We know he's getting a little bit older, but like, if you just look at his, like over the course of his career, whenever he's in the lineup, he's being extremely, extremely effective. And you put a guy like a Demidov to him where that can maybe do a little bit of the heavy lifting, so to speak. Get Demidov to do the skating.
Oh, man.
You know, Giroux's just going to be kind of feeding him there, winning the draw, so to speak. You know, he's a smart player too, right? Where he's going to know how to spend his energy through the course of the game, his positioning. So I see this being a guy that's efficient kind of going forward. I might just be a little bit biased, of course, you know, coming from Elmer, Gatineau, Quebec area. You know, we got a love for Claude Giroux in those parts.
Yeah, like, look, like a native of Hearst, Ontario, small town, but hey, a lot of love for Claude Giroux, and honestly, like, just so much respect for him as a player throughout his career. He's been through ups and downs, and he's had a really nice bounce back with Ottawa, and like, again, that season 2 years ago was just so phenomenal to see that 79-point year kind of coming out of nowhere after he was traded from Philly to Florida. Wasn't sure what was going to happen. You know, he did have a 65-point year in 75 games. Like, that's really good. And then that almost point per game season with 35 goals, the resurgence. Again, I don't think he's necessarily that player anymore, but he can provide value as we are going to end the poll right there. Very curious to see what the result is. Let's take a look here, YouTube. Again, it's never going to add to 100, but Jesse, 41 votes. It seems like 21 votes for yes, you'd take Giroux at 4 to 5 million. 20 votes for no. 21 to 20 is what it seems to be. 51 to 48, 51 to 49%. So some people split on Giroux, but hey, again, I think I'm on board with, like, it's a very, you know, black and white yes or no answer there, and I think it does depend on factors. Like Ethan says, like, if Horvat and Giroux are both the same price, I'd still prefer Horvat. Like, and again, it depends who else is available, right? I think if we miss out on a big name that goes to another team, right? Like if McTavish ends up with another team that's not Anaheim and we miss out on it and we settle for Giroux, I think it's going to look a lot worse than if kind of like things fall into place the way they do, where it's like, okay, this doesn't make sense for Montreal, and then we take him as a bridge, right? So very, very interesting. I know he's 37, but hey, there's a lot of interesting stuff to go here. But listen, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. We're less than 20 likes away from 100. Hey, if you're appreciating this show, this daily Habs content, hit that free like button down below. Jesse, very interesting day. Reports are coming out fast and furious, and I can't wait to cover the rest of it, man. I think this is just the start of the season where things start to get hot.
Well, you know that Ivan Demidov, Lane Hutson, they're putting their work in the offseason. We got to do the same. We got to keep up with it. This is a young team, this is a young podcast. So, big things coming for this team, and, we're going to be ready for it.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And just a quick reminder, as well, to the new benefits of channel membership. At any tier of channel membership, we're releasing a few post shows a week where we just chat after the video. It's a little more calm, a little more, toned down, just kind of relaxing conversation about the Habs, where we ask you guys some questions as well. So if that sounds interesting to you, even more Habs content, any tier of channel membership now has that available on the channel. We have 2 shows last week I think you should check out, but that will do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, but most importantly, subscribe. We're so close to 21,000, and I want to thank every single one of you for helping us reach this milestone. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.